rubbing shoulders with CEOs and millionaires. I've never seen my vision be more crystal clear. Look in the mirror, see the change in who I used to be. I kept going, knew success would come eventually. But ask about me back then, they said I wouldn't make it. Nowadays they doubt less and tend to ask for favors. Poetic music, that's realness, don't let them tell you different. And if you ever lost in doubt, then follow your intuition. These words of wisdom is for those who's trying to find their purpose. Don't be living just to die, cause only death is certain. I'm working hard so I can toast to my accomplishments. Cause see, I lost it all and I ain't been the same since. I'm more focused, more ambitious, more everything. Grew up with nothing, now I appreciate the finer things. I know it's real when at the shows they ask for autographs. And now they know the name, they ain't gotta ask. Yeah.
Rocking and rolling. So, geez, man, this is number 16 already this year of the podcast. So next guest is a buddy of mine back from the old days in the food truck world, Matt Mcdonald. How the hell are you, buddy?
Good, Ben. How you doing?
Going good, man. So Matt's having some technical technical difficulties. Might be a disability, but we'll basically have to just have audio for this one on that sense.
Save you from my looks.
Yeah, he's a looker, all right. Let me tell you. Go to the Meatball Facebook page, Denver food truck. You'll see him enjoying life, eating good food. Yeah, man. Thanks so much for taking the time to do this. First of all,
Sure. Sure.
I wanted to talk to you, one, because obviously you're a good buddy of mine. I've kept in touch with through the years, and even though we had kind of diverged from the food truck world per se, I think in a sense of you kind of running that and continuously running that. I mean, it's been almost a decade now that you've been in that game?
Yeah, almost. Let's see, in December it'll be 10 years.
Wow.
So,
that's awesome, man. I mean, like, just from that perspective alone, like, we know the nuances of the food industry and the service industry, and the fact that can claim that you've done something for a decade. I just think it's truly remarkable, and kudos to you, man. And I'm not blowing smoke up your ass.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I believe it.
But the reason I wanted to talk to you, one of the main things too, was obviously small business, the effects of the pandemic on the business itself, and maybe some later on some kind of tips of the trade and things that I think that we both had to learn kind of the hard way in trial and error regarding food, regarding business partnerships, regarding a bunch of stuff. So hopefully you're cool with talking with most of that stuff. I mean, we don't have to get into specifics.
Sure. Yeah.
But just,
I'm an open book.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So first off, like, where are you originally from?
I'm originally from right outside of Cleveland, Ohio, in a small college town called Oberlin, Ohio.
Okay.
Both of my parents were music professors there. They've got a good conservatory there. So I grew up sort of in the academic world.
Got it. And with that, did you get to travel with your parents at all? Were they kind of on the road doing stuff, or that was all just at the
university? They were on the road, but no, we stayed at home and, high school and all that stuff. They did most of the traveling.
Got it.
Here and there, and trips to New York, a pretty, decent childhood.
Yeah. What kind of music?
Classical music, and specifically underneath that, Baroque music is a specific time period in history. That's particularly my mom's emphasis. So she became well known for Baroque violin, playing on period instruments from the 17th century, things like that. My father was a clarinetist. He got into the Baroque thing for a while as well, but really got more into education, and then retired many years ago. But yeah, classical music. That's
great, man. I'm actually, on a side note, I'm really getting into like the neoclassical music. A lot of the scores that you see with some of these kind of blockbusters have that kind of background ambient kind of sound to it, like the Batman series and things like that. So just kind of like with YouTube, you can dive into that realm and that genre pretty easy. And there's a lot of people that are putting stuff together in a neoclassical sense, like through the computer. So they may not know how to play the instruments, but they can put together an ensemble of some kind, and it's turned out really, really well. So one of the examples I can give is Zach Hempsey is the guy that put together some of the score for the Chicago Bulls documentary.
What a great documentary.
It was, man. Growing up, we're so off topic, but it's great.
We're talking about The Last Dance?
Yeah, exactly. And so obviously you have Ohio roots, so you have some disdain probably for Michael Jordan as well, but you have
I was actually living in Chicago throughout the entire arc of their success. I got my first day in Chicago. I got off the L train downtown Chicago. I was going to school at the Art Institute of Chicago, and the Loop was just a mess because the Bulls had won the night before, and that really started my that was always going on in Chicago when I lived there for about a decade. It was always about the Bulls. So I wasn't into sports back then like I am now, but
right.
Yeah.
What a crazy time though. And so some of that one song, it's called Vengeance. Zach Hempsey put it together like 10 years ago on a computer kind of. And that's the song that's playing when Jordan steals the ball from Karl Malone, and it's just like kind of slowly like ticking away. And then it like really, like when he's about to freaking keel over because he's played so many minutes because Scottie Pippen can't move because of his back. Like that's the song right there that, like it just got me. I've heard that song before, and it kind of put me down the rabbit hole, especially with YouTube and YouTube music. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, the genre is something that I'm passionate about. I definitely, in the future, I'm a creative at heart. So ideally, I would love to make some music in that same sense too, with samples and things like that, and just see what comes out of it. You never know.
Go for it.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And so you grew up in the Ohio area. You took off to Chicago. I think probably most people either go to New York or Chicago from Ohio, right?
Yeah, that's true.
What made you pick Chicago over the others?
Restaurants. I had actually spent some time in upstate New York at the Culinary Institute of America. So I was in school, and New York was just too big for me. I went down there and visited a couple times. I just couldn't see myself living there. And I had lived in Chicago before culinary school after leaving college. So it was just sort of like my home base for about 10 years.
Got it.
I really still love the city, love to go back, try and go back at least once a year.
Nice. And that city obviously has a great, it's one of the few cities in America, big cities in America I've never been to, ironically, but I know it has an amazing food scene. What did you take away from that time period there from a culinary perspective?
I was mostly learning the industry. I was young. I had went to liberal arts college. So, didn't really, even though I had a simmering work ethic underneath my lazy exterior, it had yet to be revealed. And when you get into kitchens when you get into kitchens anywhere, but particularly in a pressure environment or a high-end environment like Chicago, they really kick your butt into shape, and they show you how to, the basics of not only cooking, but working. And, the restaurant business is just crazy hours, just a kind of a crazy business. So the 5 years I spent training underneath a bunch of great chefs, I think the most I learned out of Chicago was a work ethic and how to make it happen. That's a phrase that's used a lot in the restaurant business.
Right.
Gets done. I was a creative type, so I never really picked a management path. I was into line cooking. I was into development of dishes, things like that. So I did do some of that during that time frame. But again, mostly it just sort of kicked my butt into shape and sort of, set me on a career.
And then when you got there, what was the inclination to go into that industry? Was it something that was kind of passion growing up, or was it something that just seemed like a cool thing to do, and you seemed to like the people and the team dynamic of that industry?
Well, I didn't work well with others back then, so it didn't have anything to do with team. I had to learn that. But all of the above. It was 1990. Dating myself here. In 1996, I got out of culinary school, and that was really, for example, that was, I think, Food Network launched in 1995, so it was a whole different world. So things were starting to buzz around the career of being a professional chef. It felt like you could be it was a white collar career path that had just opened up and became very, very hot. So that was very intriguing. I also read a lot about food. I was always interested in food. I was an English major in college, so I read a lot about nonfiction food writers. MFK Fisher, Edward Bear were the big ones back then. So that set me going. Everything sort of coalesced into heading into culinary school, and then they hammer it into your brain in culinary school. Take 5 years and work for the best restaurants you could. And I really did that.
That's awesome. Are some of the restaurants still around?
No. One, maybe. I should look it up. But when you're working that high-end fine dining, it's those restaurants, they just have a lifespan of, several years where they're very, very hot and then they fizzle out. So it's a lot like nightclub business or something like that. Had been more stable businesses that, more traditional, not so creative, not so high end, they'd be around, but he's not so much.
As you're in that scene and you're progressing in that world and in that realm, what is it about the draw of that suck factor in that industry that either leads you to want more of it or just kick and scream and get the hell out of that industry as fast as possible?
I was totally just an adrenaline junkie. I was one of those guys who you don't really want to hire because they have their own agenda, and my agenda was sort of get into a rush and feel that just get slammed. I love that stuff. I love prepping just volumes of food. I love the pace of it. I love the energy behind it. At the time, I loved the hours of it. It felt like we were living against the world, and that was just sort of a cool thing to do at the time. Now the hour is not so great. I'm older, all that, but I still part of me likes the energy of the line and working in a kitchen. That's got some energy. I don't like the kitchens that are really laid back and things like that. That's just not who I am.
So you're not opening up anything in Boulder anytime soon, is what you're saying?
Exactly.
Got it. No, I can totally relate, because I think there's a lot of similarities within military life and industry, in a sense of the suck factor. There's like times where like there's not shit going on, and then like all of a sudden you have 90 things to do all at the same time. And I think that in the military they call it hurry up and wait. So I definitely relate from both instances in that way. And I enjoyed that factor as much as you say you did as well, just for that sense of pride in what you're doing. And I think you probably didn't get to see the satisfaction in the same way as you do on the food truck when people like are tasting your food. But at the same time, you know that, you know, you're doing a good job and you've been doing dishes and the repetition of the art, you know, as far as the plating and the flavor palette and everything else that it really is a science. And I think people, and unfortunately they take it for granted. And like, as much as we have this dining out kind of, new age, you know, generation that generally doesn't cook very much at the house, they want Michelin star food at like bottom bin prices. And you're like, you're going to have to pick one, you know? I guess as you're moving along in that time frame, you're there in Chicago. Did you already see some of that generational difference in the appreciation of the art?
What do you mean, the younger people not appreciating it, or what? What do you say?
Exactly. Yeah, like the younger people coming in and they're not digging the vibe as much as maybe the people before them.
No, I never saw anything like that.
Well, that's good.
Yes, shut you down there.
No, it's good. No, because I mean, these things kind of
the people we were feeding back then at these restaurants, they were all expense account restaurants. So it was high-end business guys dropping $1,000, $2,000 on a bottle of wine to impress their client.
Right.
You did a lot of younger people in there because who's going to pay $185 for a degustation menu when you're, 23 or whatever, you just don't have the funds. So there's a real economic divide between the haves and have-nots when it comes to enjoying, appreciating, and having access to fine dining.
Got it. And so with that, so you spent about a decade in Chicago. You said you did about 5 years of kind of working and grinding through different restaurants.
Yeah, 5 years. My second time after culinary school, I went back to Chicago. I spent about 5 years there working in. I tried to go for the hot restaurant, the Food and Wine Best New Chefs, the James Beard Award winners. I tried to get in their restaurants, and just sort of put my life on hold for five years. I didn't think money. I didn't think anything. I just thought, I'm going to be trained. This is my training period.
Got it. And then no, it's awesome in the sense of like just kind of going for it and knowing that it's going to be a delayed gratification if it ever even happens kind of scenario. I always respect people that aren't in the instant gratification mode when they're doing things. So what made you leave Chicago?
I really burnt out. I just fried out. You're working just all the time. And after 5 years of it, I had lived the life, along with working in restaurants comes the late nights that you end up going out as a line cook. And Chicago has 4:00 bars and all this stuff. I was 25, 26 when I started in Chicago cooking and left when I was 30, 31. So I was having a good time. I was working a lot, but I was also going out a lot. And that sort of life, after a while, the big city will sort of spit you out if you don't watch yourself. I wanted to get out of fine dining. I was burnt out of it. I just didn't see the point anymore. Just wasn't into it anymore. So I went up to northern Wisconsin and worked at a country inn running a breakfast line while I figured out what to do. I catered weddings on the side, things like that. And I eventually ended up landing in Minneapolis and working for more casual restaurants there, sous chefing around. Then I kitchen managed a brewery. I just sort of cashed in my chips and made a little bit of money, not a ton, that's for sure. I thought I'd be making a lot more, but I became a chef then,
Got it. And did you like to have that kind of creative control even more so than.
Yeah, that was what I was all about. I was about the dishes. I was about food. I had, at my peak, I had 2,000 cookbooks and 4,000 food magazines. I had a second bedroom just for my library. I mean, pre-internet, so everything was, or the fledgling internet, so everything was still hardbound books, and I learned, and that's what I got into. I would work for places that would allow me full control of their menu, and tell them I would cut XYZ in food costs, and as long as it was working out, I had full creative control. At a brewery, at a fish place, nothing super high end.
Right. And which did you like better? The places that you just mentioned, or the high end, or is just a different time period in your life?
It's just a different time period. I miss the food and all that. It's a lot of fun to play with your food, and that's what fine dining restaurants really do. They just sort of play around with something on a plate. That's a lot of fun. But the downside is the hours, the pay. You make nothing in fine dining as a cook or a sous chef. You just don't make any money.
Yeah.
So I leave and go find some cash because I was getting older.
Yeah, no, I get that. And so when did you end up in Denver or in Colorado?
After Minneapolis, I moved here. I was tired of the cold. A girl I had been dating really liked Denver. We came here for a wedding. She had always wanted to live here again. And I loved it when I visited. I looked at the number of days of sunshine. I looked at the climate. I came out here to visit. Moved out here with a couple friends that were up in a resort that I was working at after Minneapolis. Moved out here. I mean, it was pretty random, but that was 15 years ago, I think. Yeah.
Okay. We moved around. We moved to Colorado around the same time. I got there around end of 2003, 2004 with the military, but I was in Colorado Springs before that.
2005, end of 2005.
And so, and then when you got to Colorado, did you jump into the culinary scene some more?
No, I moved out here and decided to do something else. And I got into IT sales for about 8-9 years. Okay. So I had a job, I cold called, I did all this stuff that, normal work. I would call sales,
Yeah. And one thing I'm obviously getting from you is that you like to grind at whatever job that you're at.
Yeah.
So, glutton for punishment, I assume. It's
sales is not an easy world.
No, definitely not. And then what kind of drove you back into the service industry?
I just didn't stop. I never really got out of it. I catered on the weekends when I had a regular desk job. I think it was on Fridays, I would take burritos into the office, like 100 burritos, and sell them. So it was just in my DNA to do this, Right. I realized that, if I was still doing it and I was making good money at my sales job, there's something there, that I can't really put it down. So I thought starting a food truck would be a part-time job that I could still do sales at. Mm-hmm. No, that turns into something a little bit different than that. So,
yeah, and I completely agree with you on that. I had the same notion of kind of a part-time gig of some sort and slowly morph into like a full-time thing as maybe the sales and revenue pushed up. But you quickly realize there's no half-assing a small business. No. You know what I mean? There's just, I think even now, like we're almost 10 years removed, like from that time frame, right? Entrepreneurship is kind of sexy, right? But entrepreneurship is like boxing, right? Like, yeah, you can punch, but you're going to get punched too. And so with that, can you handle the body blows, the constant ebbs and flows of the business and working through that trial and error? And I think people realize, and I'm guilty of it as well, it's no cakewalk. When did you realize in your business that this is a full-time gig? I can't do this and do that at the same time.
Well, I had a business partner that started our first truck, KPB&J, and she used to go out and do lunches. I would get up at 4:30 in the morning and set up the truck for her, and all she would have to do was just, go serve. She ran it for lunches the first season for about 4 or 5 months, and looking at the numbers, I realized that if this was going to be successful, we were going to have to do more than lunches. We were going to have to go out and get in the game. My sales job ended, and I just jumped into it. I just said, well, I've got a business here. I'll instead of going and looking for another sales job, I'm going to just throw everything I've got into this peanut butter and jelly truck and see how it goes. The business partnership after that ended because she felt like she didn't want my business partner didn't really want to work that hard.
Right.
It was all about money. It was like, well, now I don't have a job. I've got to survive. Let's make this thing happen.
Yeah.
And, that was when about a year into the food truck.
Yeah. I honestly, I had a similar situation. I think that there was just a partnership mismatch on expectations. And I think we all go into it with the best intentions, but I don't think you're truly ready for the grind until you're in it. And I don't
know. No, business partnerships are so difficult. I don't like either of my ex-business partners. I had another one after that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I will. That's the only thing I'll say about them, though, because it's such a difficult thing to do, to partner with someone else. It's a real marriage.
Yeah.
And I've seen it over and over in food trucks where it just implodes after a few months. Expectations are generally what tears it apart. There's always some sort of lopsided arrangement where one person you see working all the time and the other person just wants to be the money or whatever. It's just business partnerships are ill-advised in my camp.
Yeah, no, I can definitely feel you on that one in many respects. Going back to PB&J, how'd you guys come up with the concept? What was your thought process in selecting that kind of venture to run with?
Yeah, we were looking for comfort food concepts. We bought a truck. And we didn't have a concept to go into it. And it was an older truck, didn't have room for a lot of equipment. And my business partner couldn't cook. She wasn't a trained cook, and she was going to be running this thing for a while.
Yeah.
So we found a cart in Portland that was doing grilled PBJs. And I thought, this would be perfect. It hits it on all cylinders. Easy to make, low food cost. The prep is pretty low. And you can be extremely creative. And most of all, I thought it was really press ready. It was really something that would grab the attention of the media and, get us established through that way. I thought it was a really sexy concept. So,
yeah. Do you think your English background kind of helped with that, and as far as the creativity and the marketing and what would stick with people and resonate with them?
Maybe more culinary stuff. I mean, I looked for coming up with grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I looked back at my fine dining career and, tweaked some cheese plates and desserts that I used to do and made them sandwiches. So that was really more substantial than the English degree.
I still remember the Barcelona, so if that means anything.
Yeah,
to
the
you.
Barcelona, we haven't run that in a while.
So that was my favorite.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. And so, getting into that, I guess, how am I going to word this? Given everything that you've been through, if somebody's, how do you go about, because this happens to me all the time. Hey, I was thinking about getting into a food truck. What's your answer to somebody?
My answer?
Yeah.
In Denver, Colorado, right now, I'm thinking of buying a food truck.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Okay.
I would literally say don't do it because so many people are probably encouraging these people like, yeah, it sounds great idea, and it's only $45,000 to start your own business, and yada, yada, yada. Someone cold splash of water in their face and say, this is tough business. Most of the food trucks will go under within 2-3 seasons, if that.
Right.
Give them all the bad parts of it so they know what's going into it. I tend to sound like a real downer when people ask that, but I don't really care. I could save them tens of thousands of dollars.
I completely emphatically agree with you. No, I tell people the same thing. I said, if you people, and this sucks to say, but people in food are either there because they can't do anything else or because they love it. There's no in between in the service industry. And so,
I like to say that if you don't love it, you're going to kill yourself. And that's why you're laughing. It's true.
If
it's not for you, you are so out of your comfort zone. It's just, and you can tell the people who are into it. I park my trucks at a kitchen commissary with probably 40 other trucks.
Yeah.
Tell the guys who walk with a step and urgency, they're into it. And then you can tell the guys who are just there and they're not going to make it,
In a sadistic way, do you kind of keep a mental tab of like who's there and who's not the next season?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's bad to do, but it's like, one more down, when you see someone close. You know?
And it's unfortunate, but I think that's the free market, right? Like, I think if your concept, like, you could be the baddest chef on the planet, but if you suck at the marketing and the promotion of your truck, like, it's not going to go anywhere. Like, it doesn't matter.
Culinary skills have very little to do with my trucks. I mean, it's just not that they were put together to put out good, solid, comfort food at a good price. And it's not, there's no, particularly my meatball food truck, there's no creativity going on there. People know what a meatball sub is. People know what it tastes like, and they want the food that, they remember tasting. They want a meatball sub that tastes like a meatball sub. They don't want, turkey meatball sub with whatever crisp prosciutto and goat cheese or whatever. That's just not what they want off that truck. So you really got to be, you got to be a mechanic, you got to be a plumber, you got to be a marketer, you got to know social media, you got to know how to keep your books, you got to know all that stuff.
Yeah,
it's a real. If you spent your time in a kitchen thinking, I'm ready to open up a food truck, well, you probably are because you're never ready. But you really got to have an open mind and say, this business is going to teach me. Yeah,
I would like to think that I'm well accomplished, or I was well accomplished even at that time. It was a humbling experience. Like, I'm just being completely honest here, where you come in with the mindset of like, yeah, I've done some really crazy shit in my time and this and that, and I'm pretty hardcore, but nothing humbles you than like people quitting on you. Like, I've had a guy like quit on me mid shift. Just, you have like one bad day and that person reads you wrong, and you're sitting there and you're cooking and running the register on your own. Like, that's how fickle some of the nuances of the job particularly are. But you also have to ask yourself, what's in it for me? Like, why am I here? Like if it's to, and I had to think about that really, really hard, and it was to prove to a lot of people that I could do it. And I felt that the season that I did it, we had a lot of mishaps and whatnot, and to be able to end the season and then be able to eventually just say, hey, that was a great experience, not for me, and move on.
Very smart.
Yeah.
What I tell people is like, why would you be ashamed of not succeeding in a business where the pay is so low, the hours are so bad? Why do you want to succeed in it? It's like you said, the people in the food service, they're either can't do anything else or they're just born to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people, for better or worse, that was born to do this kind of work. I don't really have. It wasn't really a choice. It was just sort of, this is what I'm going to do. So, and it's very exciting. I don't want to be down on it. I still
no. You sound like an officer and a gentleman, and he's like, I got no place to go.
No. I don't feel like that at all. I feel, every day I wake up and I'm happy to be my own boss. I enjoy what I'm doing. There is that grind, of course, but there's grinds at every single job. I couldn't deal with the 9-to-5 world. It just wasn't for me. I felt like I was missing out on something. I just couldn't do it. So, you gotta be born to do it. You either love it or you kill yourself.
Yeah. And so with that, obviously the first time, and I think it was super smart to go simple on the second truck. We both know what kills in America is Mexican, burgers, and barbecue. Those are the top food trucks every time. Like if you have a niche item of some sort that tastes good, it's a one-off in a sense of somebody coming back to your truck and being a repeat customer generally, unless they're like booking you for a party or something else like that, right? But we've been in City in the Park. It's crazy like how people got wind of the ambiance of the food truck world, and kind of like any industry, it's the people, like the miners, it was the guys that were selling the shovels and the equipment that were making out the best while everybody else is like doing all the hard work. What are your thoughts on the industry as a whole today and how it's structured in a sense of, kind of it's inviting, and it's kind of, you have some sense of camaraderie, but then you realize how cutthroat it is at the same time. At least that was my experience, where people were kind of placating to each other, but then, doing different things to adversely affect business, in that sense. I was trying to be nice. But what do you think of the current state of the Denver market is in that fact?
Whether it's cutthroat or not?
Well, just in general now, like based on like having gone through a pandemic, are people a little bit more closely knit based on that, or people?
No, but this is coming from a guy who's been doing this for 9 years. I've got my stops. I've got another business that books food trucks for stops.
Yeah,
I pretty much stay away from. I'm a lone wolf. I do my own thing. I experienced the same thing you did. It was very cutthroat. I've had my trucks vandalized several times by other trucks. Through word of mouth, I found out. So it's a cutthroat business. It just is. I'm not saying that I go into a kitchen every day with 40 other trucks. There's no ill will or anything. I just sort of keep to my own. But the main difference between when you were in it, 8 years ago or whatever, is there actually is a food truck industry now. There's businesses that book events that you can go to and say, I want to do your events. So there are actually pre-planned stops that you can go to. The breweries have all been figured out. There's maybe 3 of them that are good, and everybody wants to get in there. So there's food truck builders that are now a little bit more reputable than they were in the past. But there's a whole industry that grew up around food trucks. And it's the newer trucks just, I hate to sound like the old grandpa, like, the old days, but the old days, you didn't have anywhere to go. You had to find out, you had to be creative and think, okay, where am I going to park? I'm going to park by Sunflower Market or whatever. There were no HOAs, apartment complexes that were looking for trucks, things like that.
Right.
So gotten bigger. There's probably 1,000+ trucks in Denver right now.
Fucking Christ.
Yeah, but it's also, there's been an industry that built up around that growth, so it can handle it.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Do you feel you got in at the right time, like to get that experience and have that credibility within the community? And not only that, but like you guys do your own thing, so obviously that helps out a lot, not having to go through gatekeepers, so to speak, for events and things like that, like before.
Right. We are gatekeepers.
Yeah.
We're the ones that set it up, which was really smart. I mean, the smartest thing I ever did, and this is going with my partner, Holley Matthews, as well. We decided that we didn't want to do, as much as possible, we didn't want to do events that we didn't want to be on someone else's shelf. So compared to retail space, where if you sign up for an event, the organizer can put your truck wherever they want, behind a tree, on top of wherever. They can do whatever they want. So in order to get to a consistent revenue stream, we realized we've got to be the one who owns the shelf. We've got to be the one who owns the store where our truck is going. So we set up events at HOAs and apartment complexes, and it really took off. It's huge. We've got over 100 stops now. We work with well over 100 food trucks, book them at these stops for a nominal fee, but a nominal fee that adds up over the course of many, many trucks. So it's been a good sideline for us. It's been a good revenue builder. And it's been the way that we've survived throughout the pandemic. If I had to survive on my food trucks, wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Just wouldn't.
And is there enough infrastructure regarding commercial kitchens and things like that for growth still, or is that tapped out right now because of just the growth of the trucks themselves are surpassing the industry itself for the support?
So you're asking if there's enough like kitchen commissaries and things like that?
Yeah.
I would say there's enough. I mean, I'm at Denver Commissary, which is sort of the big cheese commissary. It's got all the bells and whistles. It's extremely well maintained. So we're very lucky that way. There's been a couple commissaries that have opened in the last year that have been started by other trucks. But I don't hear of anyone. It's tough. There's been so many trucks that have gone off the road. Mm-hmm. I don't think any commissaries lacking trucks, but I do notice a lot of empty spots now at our kitchen commissary since the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty of spots right now. Everybody's sort of, you use the phrase hurry up and wait. We're in a hurry up and wait situation where it's like, what's going to happen after the pandemic? We're all just struggling to get by during the pandemic, but everyone's like, you wouldn't want to build a kitchen commissary right now for trucks because you have no idea whether these trucks are going to be around in 8 months. What's going to happen to them? There's too many unknowns.
Yeah. What was so let's scoot back a little bit here. March 1st timeframe last year, as this stuff is starting to go, I know that we were talking a little bit back and forth, and you were just talking about, another season, this and that, and then March timeframe hits, and we just kind of hit a standstill as far as a country is concerned, even a city.
Yes.
What's going through your head at that time?
Well, we pulled I remember we were up at a good lunch stop. It was a Friday that the stall started to go down, and that was the last lunch stop we did. We were off the street for 6 weeks from March to mid-April, I believe, or somewhere around that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Lockdown. Didn't know what to think. I mean, I took it pretty well, to be honest with you. I was just sort of like, well, there's nothing you can do. We can't do anything here. And then, so it was a bummer. It was a bummer year for the trucks, but it was a huge year for our other business that books these food trucks. And immediately last March and April, that business just took off. I mean, it just shot up by growth of 100%. I mean, it's just nuts. Trucks needed places to go, and they all migrated to HOAs and apartment buildings in the suburbs. And there were trucks that continued to work during the lockdown. So we were hopeful. We were happy that the money kept coming in. It just came from a different part of our business.
Yeah, no, that's awesome that you still had the infrastructure to keep that going. And obviously there was a need and a want probably from both ends. You know, people are stuck in their homes, you know, they could probably call in to go to the rec center within these HOAs or what have you to at least order some food.
All online ordering. So they just do everything on their phone or their laptop and, come out and no touch, no contact, pick up their food. And the neighborhoods have been very, very generous, say that, in supporting small business.
That's good. What about the local municipality? What do you think about the city and the county, the state, and their efforts to help people like yourself in the small business realm?
I'm pretty happy with the PPP loans and stuff. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is it what? Yeah. The PPP loans. We got a emergency small business loan. We got approved for another loan through some other agency. I mean, I felt very much supported.
No, that's great.
We're a micro business. We're a small business, so we get something like $14,000. That's going to pay our payroll for the next couple months. Whereas, you talk to a restaurant about their PPP money, they get $14,000. It's a drop in the bucket. They can barely do anything with it, So yeah. Very happy with how things have gone down.
No, that's great. That's good to hear because obviously there's variances in that story per se.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I think being so established and having, like accounting to show back years of earnings and things like that are key in those scenarios. That way.
Yeah. Required. Yeah.
That too. But, most people, if they think about it conceptually, if they just started their business within the last 2 years, they're fucked. Like they're not getting any of that money.
Oh yeah, no, they're screwed. If you just opened up during the pandemic, and I know a couple, 2 or 3 businesses that opened up in the pandemic from food trucks, they get nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
Definitely. And so moving forward, obviously we're still kind of in limbo. I mean, people are starting to get vaccinated. Last summer, did you feel like a surge in business during that time frame when things tended to feel a little bit more lax and people felt a little bit more safe or anything like that? No.
Our numbers dropped significantly. We didn't feel any surge at all. The food truck world, there's always a couple people who are like, oh, I'm killing it. And then you just like bullshit. I don't know anybody who for the pandemic was a good thing, except for our business, hand to mouth. But for food trucks, it's just been awful. There have been success stories, but I wouldn't say those success stories are growth for them during the pandemic. I would say that they were successful before the pandemic, and for whatever reason, they've managed to hold on to that success.
Got it. And moving forward, we're kind of in the same spot. We're almost kind of having a deja vu scenario as last year. Moving into March, kind of unknown on how the public is going to view kind of sort of assimilating back into normal life. What's the best outcome you can think of moving forward for you guys, and what do you hope that Denver and Colorado in general are gonna be looking forward to here, let's say in the summer?
I don't think it's going to be summer at all. I always look at worst case scenario and prepare for it.
That's probably why you survived as long as you have in this industry.
Yeah, no, only the paranoid survive. I'm thinking that this whole thing will probably be quote unquote over in October. I would be happy if it was over in October, and we're speaking in February right now.
Yeah.
So the best case is we survive and we do a little bit of growth from last year to this year. And I'm speaking strictly of food trucks.
Yeah.
That would be the best case. I'm not under any illusions that this is just going to be a rockin' summer. It's just not. And that for everyone listening, I mean, this, March is sort of like the beginning of March and April. That's the beginning of the season yearly of food trucks when the weather starts to get nice. And I lost my thought. I mean, it's just
definitely St. Patty's Day is definitely the official time when
official. You sort of get St. Patrick's Day, and then it dies down a little bit, and then at the end of April. But everyone knows the real money months: June, July, August, September. You want to get through those, and I just hope for a little bit of growth, so we can say, well, it's better than last year, But we're in a hurry up and wait pattern here.
Yeah. So if somebody is, after you've given them your spiel of pessimism, moving into the industry, if they still are wanting to do it, do you think that's courageous, or do you think that is foolish?
No, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. I just try and weed people out. If you can be swayed by some grubby food truck owner telling you not to do your dream, that's your fault. It's your fault if you get your dream done. I'm just trying to talk them out of it. And then as soon as you can sort of tell, after talking with people, like, oh, this guy is serious, he's for real, wish him the best of luck and hand him my business card and say, we book events, and when you're up and running, give us a call.
Yeah.
I don't begrudge anyone. I'm not going to someone go out and chase their dream and say, what an idiot.
No. I think that's the right mentality to have, because you're living it as well, and maybe they see maybe a little bit of themselves in you and like what you're doing. They're like, maybe one day I can get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
How important is it to have a good partnership at home for your business?
That's part of. You want to know the real reason why I'm still around is my partner, girlfriend, Holley Matthews. She's the one who runs. When I talk about this booking business called Hand to Mouth, that's all her. I don't have anything to do with it. As a matter of fact, I aggressively try and stay away from it because I can't get sucked into it. Because any day my business could take off, my truck business. So she's the one. She's the real secret of success. She's the business-minded one. I'm sort of the grunt who goes out and does the work, and she's the one who lines up all the gigs, tries to get me the best gigs possible. She does all the booking. She does all the back end stuff. She does all the taxes. She handles the relationship with the accountant, lawyer, insurance agent, all that. everything she does allows me to go out and just do what I do. So I would say it's incredibly important, particularly, I mean, it's a totally different tangent here. If you just got someone who, wife or husband who isn't in the business and you're starting a food truck and your husband doesn't quite get it, you're going to be gone for a long time. You know the hours. I mean, it's just crazy. You just, in season, you're up at 5 a.m. and you come home at 9, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
You would have to have an incredibly supportive partner to go through that. And kudos to those who do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
My relationship, we're in this business together. So
is that rough on both the personal and the business side, that you are connected in that way and you're not compartmentalizing your lives, or you just make it work now?
No, there's more just pragmatic problems, like when the stop sucks and my girlfriend booked it. You know what I mean? I'm going to get on the phone, and the first thing a food truck is going to do is not blame. They're not going to blame themselves. They're not going to say, "Yeah, they just didn't want my food." They're always going to point the finger, and me included. Going to go, "Oh, it was the stupid stop," and that stuff happens quite a bit. Sort of getting pulled into the business. Her business has also been a challenge to not get sucked in.
Yeah.
Because she's tremendously busy, but I had to sort of keep my distance. So there's issues like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can totally relate in that sense. And then when people are okay, they've gotten through, they cut the mustard as far as like, I'm getting in this regardless of what anybody says. Do you, obviously you're handing out business cards and whatnot, but if somebody were to ask, be like, "Hey, I need a mentor in this game and I'm willing to like pay you a little bit here and there," would you do like food truck consulting?
I've done that in the past, free of charge. I mean, I used to take people on my truck, let them work a shift, work the window, where all they're doing is just taking money and handing out food. It's nothing where you really need to be super trained for.
Right.
However, if you're a good window person, it's totally money. But I don't know. What was the question again? Hold on a second. What was the question?
Just in a sense of like, do you actually mentor people along the way?
Yeah, I would love to, but it's sort of that situation where it is a cutthroat business. You don't want to get too close to these people because you don't really know what's going to happen down the road. So I try and support people through our business. I like to think we support people through our food truck booking business and give trucks good places to park.
Right.
Rather than mentor them and stuff like that. I'd rather be more practical and looked at it like that.
Yeah,
but sure, human nature to want to help someone who's starting out in a business like your own.
Yeah. With that, I just, I think about that time again. I don't think I worked that hard since I lived in, a big city and was like working like 2-3 jobs at the same time. What tricks of the trade can you think of like offhand here that you would, as you're starting out, like some just dumb mistakes that you can think about that you made early on? What would you tell people to avoid, and what would you tell people to concentrate on?
Well, get yourself a good truck. I mean, I don't know if you had a truck that acted up, but if you're going to pay for it one way or another, if you go and buy a $20,000 truck that's outfitted, but it's kind of cheap, and you're like, wow, I got a great deal for it, I guarantee you you're going to end up dumping $20,000 to $30,000 into that vehicle just to keep it running. So buy something that's reliable. It sounds really self-explanatory and it sounds a little dumb, but
right.
Get a good vehicle. Put your money, where it's going to pay off the most, and that's your primary product, which is your vehicle. I had a vehicle that just broke down every 3 days. It was just terrible. And it was because we cheaped out. We bought a $25,000 truck, had to replace the engine after 2 weeks, all kinds of nightmares and stuff like that. So get yourself something reliable. On the flip side, outside of mechanics, I would say make sure to take some time for yourself, because you can burn out really, really easily. And I just came out of a probably year and a half of just being crushingly burnt out because I just worked so many hours for so many years. And that's just no fun for anyone. Trust me. Burnout is a real thing. And it's something you have to be very careful with when you get involved in small business, because it's your baby. But just like you want to put all your money in your food truck because you'll pay for it in the back end if you don't take care of yourself and you do not give time for yourself to, just sort of live a life and not be completely consumed by your business, it's going to catch up to you and you'll pay for it later on. Could be a year, could be 10 years like me, but you're going to end up feeling it.
No, I completely agree. Who's you seem to be the guy that's like on the gas, like when you need to be like full throttle. Is Holley that kind of sense of like, hey, you need to slow down after you guys have been together for a while? Does she kind of let you know, like, hey, you're getting a little snippy?
No, that was part of the problem. No, Holley is like Janis Joplin. She has the, what do you call it, fortitude of just like, she can do anything and do it for hours and hours and hours and days and months on end. The amount of work that goes into her business hand to mouth is just staggering. So I'm with someone who challenges me to do more.
Yeah.
All the time, not kicking me out of the house and saying, go get some money, but
suck it up, way. Buttercup. Let's do
exactly.
this.
in a good way. She's very encouraging and likes to support and all that. So it was, when I went through burnout, it was difficult just to sort of say, hey, I got to put the brakes on here. I can't do this anymore. I'm miserable, and sort of schedule lighter. And the pandemic sort of happened at that time anyway, so we slowed down. So I got lucky there, but no, she does not say slow down. Another, if you were just had a normal job, and then you went into owning a food truck and your wife or your husband sort of sat on the sidelines, I'm sure they would be saying you need to slow down because you just work so much.
Yeah. Do you think in some ways this pandemic was a blessing in disguise for certain people to kind of recalibrate, like mentally, the processes and the business?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. I was needing, I burnt out probably right after Great American Beer Fest, which was a huge event we did in the fall of 2019. I remember coming home from that and just a switch went off. And we had been working for about a week and a half straight on this event. And I just was like, I just can't do this anymore. So when the pandemic came in March, secretly I was a little happy that I could take some time off with absolutely no repercussions and absolutely no excuses,
Right.
So yeah, it just sort of coincided with all this stuff for going on with me. So it was a little bit of a good fortune.
Moving forward with your businesses, do you like where they're at? I mean, do you want to grow the businesses besides operationally? Do you ever want to have like a brick and mortar spot or anything like that?
It's kind of up in the air. With my burnout, also sort of changed my goals changed. My goal was always to take Meatball into a brick and mortar, and as I was like, I can't work these hours anymore. Well, a restaurant's going to be just as much hours. So I'm sort of in a holding pattern on that. I don't know what I'm going to do. We'll obviously grow hand to mouth, the booking business. We'll grow Meatball. PBJ has been off the road. One of my trucks been off the road since the pandemic a year now. I don't know what's going to happen with that. This whole thing is not over yet. So I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. We'll have to see. There's plenty of commercial real estate available right now for a restaurant, for a brick and mortar. I mean, restaurants are closing here and there, but to open up something in the middle of a pandemic, even at the tail end, seems foolhardy to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, the risk versus reward, obviously, just too high right now for anybody.
Yeah. Well, there are guys doing it, but I don't know how successful they are.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. People put on those fronts, fake until they make it kind of scenarios with this industry, and unless you're a freaking, a burrito truck, you could see those numbers. But no, I think this has been an enlightening conversation. Hopefully that other people get a sense of small business world and the fact that this is no cakewalk. And I wanted to be sure to articulate that not only from myself, but through somebody else that's been grinding for almost a decade in that industry.
Yeah, it is a lot of work. It's not a hobby business.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for your time, bro. I know you're busy.
Good seeing you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely have to catch up when I get back here in about a month or so, and just grab a beer and shoot the shit and say hi to Holley for me.
Totally, I will do. She's in Texas right now, but I'll let her know.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, we'll appreciate it, man, and we'll be in touch and look forward to seeing you.
All right, my man. Thanks so much. Take care.
Yep. Bye. The show is produced and engineered by myself, Ben, out of Denver, Colorado. Be sure to subscribe to our social media or wherever you consume content, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Big shout out to Mike Xavier. Thank you so much for letting us use your music as part of our show. Be sure to check him out as well on social media and stay tuned for the next show.